We just helped another client buy a home with down payment assistance from Golden State Finance Authority. You want to learn more? Right here, right now on GSFA TV. Welcome to the Journey to Homeownership from Golden State Finance Authority on the Power Is Now TV. My name is Carolyn Sunseri. I'm Marketing Director with Golden State Finance Authority. And with me today is also Eric Frazier, President and CEO of the Power Is Now Media. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you, Carolyn. I'm so excited about this particular segment. It's going to be great, folks, and I appreciate Golden State Finance Authority, the great work they're doing, and partnering with them to bring these stories to the community is very, very important to us. Our missions are aligned, Carolyn. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Eric. It's a joy to work with you, and it's a joy to bring on actual people and let them tell their stories about their journey to home ownership, buying a home here in California, which can be quite a challenge, as we know. So yes. With us today is a very special guest. His name is Christian Park, and he's from the Tulare County area. And I want to welcome you to today's call.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you. And I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to just talk to us about your story. So let's get started. First and foremost, is this the first home that you've bought?
Yes, it is.
And so what does that mean to you?
It means having the American dream, to own a piece of property, have a backyard, something that you could call your own, something that you could invest money into.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And you know, it's also a big part of us building some financial security for the future. In California, home prices continue to rise, and it's one way for us to build some financial security through the equity in our properties. So tell me, where do you live right now, and where do you work? Give us a little bit of background.
Yes, so I live in Tulare County, and I work for the Tulare County District Attorney's Office. And there, my role is a prosecutor there. I've been with the office for over 2 years, and I've just bought my house. What was it? 7 months ago? 5 months ago? 5 months ago. Roughly.
Wow, not long ago. So is that a pretty stressful occupation you're in?
Oh, yeah. Probably one of the most stressful things you ever have to do. Yeah.
What kind of hours do you end up working?
60 plus.
Wow, that's a lot. So taking on a house was not just a financial decision, it was also a decision that involved a lot of time and preparation, I'm assuming.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Just a lot of research, but even still, once you buy a house, there's a lot of things you don't know until you actually buy your first home. So that's been stressful too.
So what have you learned? What kind of things were new to you?
There's just a lot of things here and there, like taking care of the lawn instead of when you're renting where you have someone else handle that. Oh, your air conditioner breaks. You're the one that has to go and reach out to people instead of having someone else do it. Those are all things that have happened to me since I've owned my home.
Just in the last 5 months.
Yes.
So you've added a few obligations or responsibilities to your plate. Do you think it's been worth it?
I think so, because the way I look at it, I look at my the interest I'm paying versus what I'm actually paying down to the actual principal itself, and then I calculate really how much I'm expecting back on my taxes, and I think honestly I'll end up about the same, or just a couple $100 per month, a little less than what I was paying in rent prior when I calculate all that, because of it's a blessing in disguise that the interest rates were a little high, because then I could keep my house a little lower, the price being lower. And the fact of then I'll have more to write off in my circumstance.
Tell me a little bit more about your family. Are you living there alone?
I'm living there with my fiance, and our dog.
Yeah, nice little family. And the house itself, what is it like?
It's 1,500 square feet. It's 3 bedrooms. It's an older house. It's built in the earlier 1900s, so it's got some unique charm. I don't know if you'd consider it charm, and just unique shapes of the house. So there's things we want to do to it, but yeah, it's a cute home.
Sometimes these houses that are a little bit older have got a lot of more detail to the way that they were constructed. Is that something that drew you to this home, or was it a price point issue? How did you end up in a home that's maybe 80 some years old?
I was actually more inclined to choose this kind of a home just because I have a lot of colleagues who have more of those tract homes, and they all keep telling me, yeah, we're not paying for it now, but in 20, 30 years, we're going to be paying a lot in fees and everything to get it up to date.
It does seem like that construction in some of the much older homes just does seem a lot more sustainable. And I agree with you. I think they have a bit more charm.
Yeah.
1,500 square feet sounds like a pretty good amount of space for you, your fiance, and your dog.
Yeah, it sounds like that on paper, but the way it's laid out, it's very long hallways, so then the living room's not as big. It's just a lot of unused space, I would say, just because back in the 1900s they would have every room had its own room. So each room, like I have in the kitchen, has a door, or there used to be a door there. Same with the laundry room, instead of we're used to more open floor concepts now.
Sounds like you're looking forward to some modifications on the home itself.
Oh, more than you know. Yes.
That's great. I think that's something that people find fulfilling if they enjoy projects, is to kind of make that space their own, maybe change things, even down to some cosmetic things such as painting.
I would fully agree. There's nothing better than picking the weeds in your backyard and seeing the progress that you've made when planting new trees and stuff and seeing it grow.
And it's not for everyone, but a lot of people enjoy that, putting their hands and a little bit of labor into their own house. So let's compare it to what you were renting. How many years do you think you've been renting in your adult life?
Around 12, I think.
12 or so years. And I know that rental prices can change a lot in a decade, but give me kind of an average and how much you think you were spending on rent and what kind of a property that would have been.
If I averaged it out, I would say roughly $1,400 for those 12 years. Yeah.
Okay. So while we are talking, I'm going to have Eric kind of calculate how much in rent that would have been. And then we'll look at a comparison in terms of what you're doing with a mortgage today.
Perfect.
So let's talk about the process of home buying. Did you find it easy, daunting? Tell me a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, it was actually very intimidating at first, just because you don't really know what's going on, or the different levels and steps and how long each one should take. But when I spoke to one of the GSFA certified reps, they were able to walk me through it and everything, and it was a pretty seamless transition, actually.
So you work as a prosecutor for Tulare County. You are a county employee of Tulare County.
That's correct.
Which means you access the program that we refer to as the Assist to Own program.
Yes, that's the one I used.
For our audience, I'd like to remind them that this is one feature under our Platinum Down Payment Assistance Program that's available to people in about 36 or 37 counties of California if they actually work for the county itself as a county employee. And one of the advantages of that program is not only does it provide down payment assistance, but it provides it in the form of a deferred second mortgage. And we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. That's a specialized program for you as a county employee that you were able to take advantage of. And it sounds like you heard about it directly from the county. Was it the HR department?
Yeah, it's a general email that they send out every now and again with new updates of discounts at local shops or restaurants. And this was one of them they included on, I think it's called the Grapevine newsletter, they call it.
That's great. And it piqued your interest, obviously, but did you pursue it right away, or how did you learn more information?
No, I didn't pursue it right away. I waited because my lease was going to be expiring in January, February of this year. And so I didn't want to pay the early termination fee, which was like $5,000 or $6,000. So I waited. And also I was unsure with the market conditions and everything with the increase of the rates. So.
Yes, I know that we have all been in a very changing market the last year. And so before we talk about that loan, let's go ahead and take a break. I'm Carolyn Sunseri with Golden State Finance Authority, and it's my pleasure today to be speaking with our special guest, Christian Park, who is a county employee of Tulare County, and he just bought a home with the help of the GSFA down payment assistance programs. Now we're going to take a short break. Please stay with us. You are watching the Journey to Homeownership series with Golden State Finance Authority. We'll be right back.
It's the American dream to buy your own home, to build your own financial security, to call a place your own. Discover how easy it is to qualify for down payment assistance with Golden State Finance Authority. You don't have to have perfect credit or be a first-time home buyer. Find out if down payment assistance will help you purchase a home in California. Call 855-740-8422 or visit gsfahome.org. Make your dream a reality.
And we are back. For those of you just joining us, my name is Carolyn Sunseri with Golden State Finance Authority. Welcome to the Journey to Home Ownership series with Golden State Finance Authority and the Power is Now TV network. We're going to continue our lovely conversation with Christian Park, a new homeowner in Tulare County. In just a moment, I want to bring into this conversation my other guest, which is Eric Frazier from the Power is Now Media TV, and ask him to join us in this conversation as we talk about the challenges of actually getting a mortgage loan, qualifying for a mortgage loan, and then the financial part of that transaction as well. So, Christian, what kind of barriers did you face when you decided to pursue buying a home? Did you have some financial challenges or things that you had to do to prepare yourself?
Yes, I'd say there's really three issues that I had at first. One, it's being new out of law school, just really establishing that 2-year timeline where most creditors or banks like to see 2 years worth of employment so they can see that you're consistent. I guess the second thing would be getting used to the paycheck receiving, biweekly consistently, and being able to really set aside money to save for a down payment. Just for savings in particular. And I guess the third would have been really when to jump into the market, given you hear all this hysteria of, the market's going to crash or interest rates are going to rise higher or they're going to drop lower. I think those are the three barriers that I had.
And on that last one in particular, we have been seeing the interest rates fluctuate, generally increasing in the last year, and home prices kind of leveling off versus continuing to increase. What made you decide to go ahead and buy now rather than waiting?
One thing in particular, what it really set me off and made me pull the trigger on this, was the fact that a lot of the experts recommended saying 5 to 6 years from now is when they may see it turn around and go back to where it really was. And for me, I didn't want to wait half a decade to purchase a home and just keep on being afraid of whether to put my foot in the housing market.
I think that's a really good point, and I'd like to hear Eric's thoughts on it as well. Home ownership is not something that we look at as a very short-term goal. It's a bit of a long-term goal. You're investing in a home and a mortgage that you probably are going to sustain for some time. I don't think everyone needs to stay in their first home. So you may end up moving up or changing homes in your lifetime, but it is something that we're putting some years of time into. And so those years can really help us work towards our goals. You recognize that your house in 4 or 5 years may be in a better equity position than today. And you are willing to take that move now, knowing that down the road it will benefit you. I think that's important for our audience to consider. Sometimes we hold off on making a decision and we keep paying money every month to a landlord when we could be kind of settling in now, getting into, in your case, a little bit bigger place than you were renting before, start kind of putting your roots down in your own community, and then building that financial security through real estate. Eric, what are your thoughts on that too in today's market?
Well, I would agree that waiting will just simply cost you more. And being that Christian, it's a pretty smart guy. He's an attorney. So I'm sure you did the analysis. And I love what you said. You didn't want to be afraid. You didn't want to try to time the market because you didn't want to wait 10 years trying to time the market. And many people have done just that. They have been renting for 10, 15, 20 years, asking the question, is this a good time to buy? So I appreciate you taking on really a different mindset. And so, in fact, as you outlined the barriers of, just getting in a position to qualify, you didn't have actually all the money you needed also at that time until you learned about this program, right? And so would you say that in addition to those barriers, not having the money and then now having the money with GSFA really encouraged you to take on this risk of perhaps, buying at a high price and at a high interest rate?
100%, Eric, 100%. And one thing I want to note, though, I don't think it's really necessarily, at least in the area I live in, that it's considered a high price that I paid for. I think it's, at least the area that I chose it very specifically. I think it's still a fair market price. And I think even in the next 5-10 years, I don't expect it to drop too much.
I get excited when I hear buyers choosing to buy in rural areas and making the drive. Because you're an attorney, you make decent income. You could have gone closer to the city. You could have paid a lot more, but what you were approved for and what you wanted your budget reality to be, I think in your mind was two different things, and you were willing to make that sacrifice. Would that be an accurate statement?
Yes, that's absolutely it. Actually, I was approved for a higher loan amount, but I went with less because I didn't want to have too much and be house burdened.
Such a great way to look at buying a house and not maxing yourself out sometimes with that obligation, so that you still have some freedom to take care of some things or make improvements or go on a vacation. The house that you bought was a little under $400,000, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Tell me, how many bedrooms it was and the actual square footage?
It's 3 bedrooms and it's roughly around 1,500 square feet. So I have a front yard. It's got a lot of grass. That's one thing that I want to change, at a driveway. It doesn't have a driveway, but I do have a detached garage. I have a nice, really big backyard. And that's something that really attracted us to this property.
And how about location? Did you feel that was relevant in your decision?
Yes, it's close to a lot of amenities, a lot of restaurants within walking distance. And walking distance in, I guess, the US or California in particular, that's like a 20-minute walk. So for me, that's walkable.
So if I remember correctly, when I met you, you told me that you had been renting something much smaller. So let's compare.
Okay, so I was renting a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom property that's further away from a lot of the amenities. So basically, if we want to go anywhere, we had to drive, and didn't have a backyard. It had maybe a 2-by-4-foot porch area that overlooked, we're on the ground floor, and it overlooks where all the cars are parked. So there's really no privacy at all. And it was just me, my fiance, and our dog. So it was very, very compact. I think maybe 600, 700 square feet. It wasn't that big.
And so you've almost doubled your square footage. You've added another room or two, a little bit of yard and property around you for enjoyment. But I'm assuming that your rent went up in terms of what you were renting to now your mortgage loan, correct?
Yes, that's correct. I was paying roughly around $1,600 because actually when we moved to the Central Valley, that's right around the height of COVID. So rentals were scarce and they're increasing the prices left and right. So we're paying around $1,600 for 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom. Now we're paying roughly around $3,000 in our mortgage.
So you definitely had to take on a larger monthly payment for housing. What kind of adjustments did you make for that?
I just allocated, instead of going out to eat as much or traveling as much, we would travel a lot more frequently. Instead we invested in our house. We spend more quality time at home because we actually have more space. The activities that we would have maybe spent and went out to go spend money on, we would do at home now. Like, for example, we would do yard work sometimes on the weekend, and we get just as much enjoyment, if not more, because we're building value into our property and get a little workout in between there.
And you can bring friends and family over because you have more space.
Yes, I do have more space, but it's still a little compact because the dimensions of the house are a little, because they're older, but that's why we want to open it up a little bit more.
Well, it's pretty amazing, Christian, and I would like to get your feedback on this. Over that 12-year period, or actually, did you say 12 years or 14? Yeah, no, 12-year period, at $1,400 a month average, you've paid over $200,600 in rent. And that's actually income to a landlord. And you may have paid off or significantly paid down the landlord's mortgage. How does that make you feel to know that you've contributed $200,000 to the wealth of your landlord?
Well, Eric, I think you know the answer to this. Very upset, very upset.
So now here you are, and you're making payments that are actually bringing your mortgage loan down.
Yes.
And you did need some assistance with down payment. Did you have any money at all to get into this transaction? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I had about $7,000 saved up. Not as much as I'd like to, but I put around $3,900 for the EMD, earnest money deposit, and then before closing, we negotiated on sellers' contributions, and I got $10,000 worth of that. So that helped with that, along, of course, with GSFA's generous program.
So it sounds like you knew that there's going to be some closing costs involved in a home purchase as well as down payment. And so you had some money to put towards closing, and then you were able to get some seller concessions towards closing costs as well, which is wonderful. Good job to you, your lender, and your real estate agent for negotiating that. The actual assistance that you ended up getting from Golden State Finance Authority, do you remember how much money that was?
I believe it was this 3.5%. They used to offer 3%, but now I think because of inflation, it's 3.5%. So 3% is the down payment, the 0% loan, and then 0.5% is as just a gift money, as they call it.
So you got about 3.5% in assistance. It ended up being a little over $13,000. So you came in with some money of your own, around $7,000. GSFA provided you $13,000 as well to get into this mortgage loan. And you were able to utilize what most people can, which is low down payment requirements, right? You only had to come up with 3.5 to purchase the home. We helped you get there, anything that you were missing out of your own funds. Now, there was something special about the money that was provided to you. Portion of it was a gift, but the vast majority of that $13,000 is in the form of a second mortgage, which means that at some future date, whether that is if you refinance, if you sell the property, or at the end of your 30-year mortgage loan, you have to pay that $13,000 back to Golden State Finance Authority. Was that of concern to you?
No, because of the 0% interest.
That's right. So on your deferred second mortgage, you didn't have to make any monthly payments to pay that money back to Golden State Finance Authority, and you're accruing no interest on that money. That's one of the specialized pieces of the program that you went with. It's a deferred second mortgage. So you aren't having to actually pay that money back until some future date. And, that may come. It may come to a place where you refinance or you sell this property and move. And then at that point you would pay that money back to Golden State Finance Authority. But you're saving a tremendous amount of money having utilized this program through Golden State Finance Authority, where they loaned you the money for your down at 0%. Eric, help us calculate how much in savings he's making off of that.
Well, normally, if you weren't a county employee, you would be making payments on a 15-year term at the same interest rate on the first mortgage. And that payment would be $112.37 a month added to your housing expense. So because you do not have to make that payment or pay any interest, you are saving approximately $7,121 in interest because you don't pay any interest at all. And it's not being added out in terms of principal. You're not required to make any principal reductions until you either sell the property or refinance. So it's a tremendous value being a county employee, participating in this. And I certainly hope other county employees take advantage of it, because you're a living witness that a lot of money is being saved.
And so for our audience, Golden State Finance Authority does have a variety of mortgage programs that provide down payment assistance. And so I don't want to discourage anyone. If you are not a county employee, please reach out to Golden State Finance Authority and find out more about our down payment assistance programs. But if you are an employee of Tulare County or one of the other GSFA member counties, I do highly encourage you to look into this program, because in addition to providing down payment assistance, it provides it in the form of a deferred second mortgage with a 0% interest rate. So Christian, you've told us a little bit about what home ownership has meant for you. Now I'd like you to tell the audience your thoughts, your takeaways, and lessons that you've learned that they can then take into their journey to home ownership.
Yes. So I would say just look at the location. I think the number one prime thing besides your house and the foundation of it itself is your location, because that's what's gonna hold the most value, right? You expect somewhere in the future to have more development, maybe buy there. That's number one. I would say number two, really check the home. There was a couple things that I didn't realize with the home that when buying the first home, such as there was a plug behind my TV, and I figured it would work, but I didn't know that inspectors not allowed to move things around when checking things. So that plug didn't get checked, and it sure as heck doesn't work. I'm still upset about that. Those are just a couple of things that I would say to really do your due diligence on. It's very easy when you do a walkthrough, maybe ask for another walkthrough, because when you do the first time, you just imagine yourself being in that home and expect your family or your life being there. But when you go take a second look at it again, you'll find those, the issues with the house, maybe little cracks here and there, just things like that you wouldn't notice the first time.
And there are going to be things like that that didn't get caught in the inspection reports. Hopefully they're very small, such as fixing an outlet. That's technically much smaller than an air conditioning unit that's about to go. So hopefully the inspection report has caught all of the major issues, but you are going to see nuances about a house and little things that do need to be fixed or looked at over time. So yes, I agree with you. Take some time in that walkthrough to look at the house, make sure there isn't anything blaring that you wouldn't be able to handle at a future date. What kind of lessons do you have for people in terms of the financial aspect, taking on the obligation of a larger mortgage loan, saving? What takeaways do you have there?
I would say it shouldn't be as daunting of a task as that we all view it as. Even though I make a considerable amount of income compared to other people in my county, just because of my career choice, but it was still daunting for me because of how much I would allocate money for different activities that were not necessities, and that when you cut those out, you can easily afford it, or not easily, but at least with GSFA's help, you can afford it more reasonably, and especially with the tax benefits for that as well, it truly ends up equalizing it a lot more than it does for that $3,000 mortgage payment that I'm seeing come out of my checks.
It does require a bit of a lifestyle change to move from being a renter to a homeowner, whether that means that the monthly payment for housing goes up or not. I think it's important for us to realize that in life, across life, we often make a change, a shift, a sacrifice for things that we really value. And that is something that when we look at home ownership, of going into home ownership that we do need to consider. So I appreciate that you shared that with the audience.
Christian, before you made the decision to buy, that you sit down with your financial planner or perhaps your accountant, your CPA, to really look at, the impact on you financially, the pros and the cons of homeownership. And I'm asking this because you bring out a very important point. Today, most buyers are going to see some payment shock. I mean, you went from paying $1,600 to $3,000 a month, almost doubling your housing expense, and being able to make that emotional and financial adjustment in your lifestyle, not being able to do the things, pay for the things, take the trips, the vacations, and what have you. That's not an easy thing to assent to say, okay, this is how I'm going to live moving forward. But you may not have been aware, and I want to know, how did you learn about the impact of that, the taxes, being able to write off the interest and the property taxes, and that in the end, you're not really paying more than what you were, not that much more than where you were when you were renting.
Yeah, so Eric, millennials, we do not have CPAs, we do not have accountants, we do not have financial advisors. Maybe a small percentage of us do, but by and large, no, we do not. I was lucky to have my soon-to-be father-in-law. He's very good with finances, so he ran it through. Just even like, was it 3 months ago, 4 months ago, when we were running through my taxes, showing me, here's how you do your taxes, because usually I pay someone to do it. But he says, now since you guys are homeowners, you should really go through it and understand what things you can write off, which things you can't, and then here's what you would expect based off the interest rates. So that's what I did, and that's why I realized, oh wow, it's not that much different than I expected.
This is a great suggestion for people, especially if they are going to be increasing their monthly housing costs from rent into this mortgage, like you did, where it went up each month. Talk to a tax advisor and let them describe to you how the mortgage interest is a part of your tax deductions, whether you itemize and utilize that, and what kind of an impact that can have on the amount you owe in taxes in a year, and how that can offset the increase in the monthly housing costs. So thank you for sharing that. I think it's great. And I also encourage everyone to use your loan officer as an advisor. They're the one to explain to you what is going on with this transaction and help get you prepared. Christian, you didn't necessarily have any major obstacles when it came to credit and qualifying for the mortgage loan, but some people do have more obstacles to overcome, and they do need a bit more time to financially prepare. So I highly encourage people, if they're interested in the GSFA down payment assistance programs, to reach out to GSFA. We have a list of many different lenders on our website, over 100 that are approved to offer the programs. Reach out to those lenders, talk about your situation. Don't self-diagnose yourself and decide you're not in a position to buy. Find out more, find out what you need to do to get there. I want to thank you, Christian, for being on this interview today. It was great to talk to you. I'm really excited for you, your fiance, and your dog, your new home there in Tulare County. And congratulations on the career move as well. And I'm very excited for you both.
Great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me on.
Christian, I want to thank you as well for being interviewed today on the Power is Now Media. Knowledge is power. And the power really is now to buy real estate. But you've got to get the information, you got to get the tools, you got to get the resources, you got to know about the programs. And I'm so happy Golden State is making the effort to reach the community via email and videos and podcasts to share stories like yours to the community because they're not aware that they can buy. They may not have the money, but they can do it. And so the Power is Now is leading the conversation about homeownership. And I really appreciate your participation today in this interview.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Eric. And one other thing I would like to say, the hardest part really of starting to want to buy a home or buying a home is taking that first step. So for me, that email that I got from, I told you, from my county HR department, call that number, email the number that's on the flyer. That was the hardest part. Once you take that first step, everything else is a lot easier. And I just want to say, one of the stresses in life that I myself have had, and I think most Americans have, especially millennials, of the idea that we want to have the American dream of own a piece of property, buy a house. Owning a house takes away that stress of whether I can ever afford one, right? Most Americans are worried that they never can. Just being able to say I'm secure in a home now has taken away so much stress and said, can I ever buy one, or when's it going to go up? And I just want to say, people, when I bought this house, people in my office were like, I was like, are you going to buy a house? And they said, no, the market's going to crash. My dad says this, my parents say this. So it's not a good time. And I just found out last week or a couple of weeks ago, they're buying a house now too. So it's funny how things change. I don't think there's ever a wrong time to buy real estate, given all the tax benefits. Yeah, I may pay a little higher right now of the principal, but when the interest rates come down, I can refinance it's going to end up being beneficial in the end. So.
Thank you. Well, you heard it here. You heard it from Christian Park. Take that first step. Call Golden State Finance Authority, visit our website, reach out to one of our participating lenders, find out if down payment assistance is the right tool, the right path on your journey to home ownership. Thank you.
It's the American dream to buy your own home, to build your own financial security, to call a place your own. Discover how easy it is to qualify for down payment assistance with Golden State Finance Authority. You don't have to have perfect credit or be a first-time home buyer. Find out if down payment assistance will help you purchase a home in California. Call 855-740-8422 or visit gsfahome.org. Make your dream a reality.
The Power Is Now magazines are the leading resource for real estate agents, mortgage bankers, entrepreneurs, and small home ownership businesses, providing leaders with business strategy information, resources, and tools through PIN, real estate, programming guide magazines. Stay up to the minute with real estate news and information from industry experts. Subscription is free. Sign up today. thepowerisnow.com. thepowerisnow.com.